Welcome to Dear Alice, a lifestyle approach to interior design.
Hi, guys.
How's it going?
Hey, good. Jess. Welcome to Dear Alice.
How's it going?
So good. Yeah. We are going to be talking about wall coverings, wallpapers.
Episode 2 in this 3-part series.
2 of 3.
Yes.
Y'all. Yes. If you didn't catch it last week, we also talked about wallpaper.
We did. Murals.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Today,
go check that one out.
Yeah. Definitely. Today, it's patterns.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is the wallpaper. When people think about wallpaper, they think about what we're going to talk about in this episode.
Yeah. This is most common, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Murals, I think, are what we're most excited about. So we started there, but I think this is like the visuals in your head. Mm-hmm. However, if you want to see the visuals, Corey, tell them where they can see these episodes at.
YouTube. You can pull that up on your phone, tablet, computer, wherever people are watching these days, and see us, see our faces, and all of these amazing spaces that we're about to show you.
Awesome expressions.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. You want to tune in, not to see us, but to see these wallpapered spaces we're going to show you, because we're going to illustrate what we're talking about today with some of the projects that we've done so that you can really picture what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. But you can also see our faces at the same time.
Yeah, which are also nice. Yeah, it's also good.
I like happy or discouraging. I don't know.
There you go. Okay, guys, I want to know, speaking of patterns, are there any patterns that you just cannot do anymore?
I want to hear Suze's answer first.
I'm going to say this just because I think it was like when we first started, the damask. I know that historically you see damask. You see them like all over Europe and those things. Lovely, lovely. But like in like the mid to late 2000, like from 2005 to 2010, like we saw it so heavy. Mm-hmm. In fact, we had a damask, which is actually, I think it was still artistic, but we had it in the back of our cash wrap and it was like massive.
Yeah, there were these
massive hand-painted blocks.
These handmade papers, like you could see the pulp and everything in the deckled edge. And they were probably like 30 by 30 inches. And they had this huge light blue, like French blue damask, one big, frilly damask pattern per one.
You're romantic.
And so we had probably like a grid of maybe 12 of these. And then the Alice Lane brand stood off on pegs in this old iron color. The year was 2008. And
makes sense.
Y'all, just the United States of America damasked so hard that if we never see another one, it wouldn't be too soon.
Okay. And there was a cafe or like a little restaurant here downtown. It was called Cafe Niche. It's still around, and they have redone their interiors, but like their walls were like little black and white damask. The menus were little black damask. The napkins, like they went hard. Yeah. They leaned in hard. And so like, when I think of a damask, I think of that and I'm just like, it's too much. It's just too much.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah.
So I'm okay if I don't see it.
That's a good answer.
Ever again.
Yeah.
I'm good. How about you?
This reminds me of my mother. Hi, Mom. Shout out. I remember when plaid was like a huge thing in the 90s. Just was watching Friends last night and actually saw Jennifer Aniston wearing red plaid pants.
Still looking cool.
Smoking.
Yeah.
Always. Yeah. I too had red plaid pants and wore a Guess t-shirt that had a triangle that was red plaid and it said, Guess knitwear goes mad for plaid. And my mom was like, I could never wear plaid again because she wore so much plaid in high school. So this is kind of what we're talking about. There's certain motifs and patterns that you're like, never again, because it's such a timestamp in your line of when you were raised and what it reminds you of that you could never do again. Yeah. I'm trying to remember what was mine.
Paisley.
Oh, paisley. It absolutely was.
Yeah.
We paisleyed so hard in the 90s.
Oh,
every men's necktie, every dress, everything, draperies, couches, rugs, everything was paisley. And it was maroon. It was jewel tones. Yeah, it was maroon, gold, blue, green, all swirled into paisleys. And it was regal and preppy and royal and all the things. And it made you feel like you had made it, like you were super successful.
Won the lottery.
If you had paisley. Yeah.
My brother, he worked at the Gap in high school, and this was like in the 90s. And there was a lot of paisley going on. I do remember that. Yeah.
Like even boys' boxers that would just peek out the top of their denim would be green paisley.
So preppy.
So
preppy.
So preppy.
yeah, I don't really care. I don't care if paisleys come back again. I'm not gonna do it. I don't care. I don't care who puts their label on it. I'm gonna walk the other way.
Strong arm this one.
We did it too hard. Yeah, we paisley too hard.
I feel like whenever I draw a line in the sand that hard, I always end up doing it. And then I look and I'm like, damn, I said that. And we're going to be recorded here. Like,
yeah,
a lot of pressure.
We'll have to scrub the internet of this episode.
Yeah, exactly.
I do my whole house in damask.
See, because like both of those situations, I can think of examples off the top of my head where I still like that pattern. Haunted Mansion Wallpapers damask. I think it's super cool.
Oh, Disneyland.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I have my favorite guitar case that I have is this like leather stamped. So it's like embossed feeling, paisley pattern, and this like really rich, like warm leather. Yeah. And I think it's so cool. Actually, when I bought it, I was like, that case. And then I've been like looking at it.
Now you like it more.
Damn, that thing's cool.
But maybe you didn't go paisley so hard when we did because you were maybe in middle school and didn't know to paisley back then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Maybe you were doing plaid.
Yeah. I mean, I do remember actually when Brad Paisley like became popular, his guitars are all paisley pattern that he plays. He's an amazing guitar player, by the way. And I wasn't into it because it just was a little cheesy to me. Yeah. And I was like, so I do have that. Brad. Yeah. I'm like, should have just put it on your guitar case, actually. But yeah, so I do get that. Mine would be, and I'm just going to say with the caveat of like, this is on the internet forever.
Never say
maybe,
never.
Maybe I'll go back. You remember like 15, 20 years ago, it was just like everything was like a geometric pattern, like just a shower curtain or whatever. I don't know. I don't know why a shower curtain is the first thing that pops into my mind, but that I can't do. Or a rug just with the geometric like diamond pattern. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't do that anymore.
Totally.
I have one more.
Okay.
Shattered glass. Jagged ice, whatever you want to say it.
Cracked ice.
Cracked ice, you guys. Yeah. And this was like probably within like the last like 5 to 8 years, maybe like even sooner.
Yeah.
Anyway, just everybody, you guys, it's like even Kelly Worcester, I remember she had like kind of this pickup sticks wallpaper and like everybody was doing like these textiles at market. And it looked like cracked ice and like
just a lot of diagonal lines.
I just feel like attacked when I think about it.
It was so strange. We were at High Point and we went to every showroom and somebody was doing a version of cracked ice. And we were like, not you. We depended on you to just stay cool. And even they were doing cross like in like armoire doors with fretwork of this cracked ice pattern. And they're like, so this is something new that we're calling, and we're like, don't say it. Cracked ice.
This is like slow-mo.
Yeah.
Like the world is ending, like the actual foundation of our like self is just like crumbling and it's cracking like ice.
Was wrong. Yeah. It was a dark period.
I might even put that over paisley or damask.
It's because it was so fresh.
Recent. Yeah. Do you remember that massive paisley that my harem did? Like their commercial?
Yes. Loved it. Oh, what was its name? It was a good name.
It was a good one. Anyway.
Yeah. And they had it in black with like the orange and yellow and that was cool.
That was a cool one as far as, so never say never. There's a version out there somewhere that's cool, but just, that was really fun though to like go on a history lesson.
But like you can see how emotional one gets about a pattern, and we're talking about patterns in wallpaper, and we're like, what are you not going to regret?
I know.
Let's just do something that we're not going to regret. We're trying to minimize regrets when it comes to patterns, right?
Yep.
The of regrets.
I would say probably patterns are less expensive than murals, right?
Yeah.
That's a true statement. So I think
this isn't all of our price point, right?
Yes, yeah.
I don't think any of us can afford a mural. Corey did do the Gucci wallpaper in his bathroom, but to the tune of under $2,000.
But it was a pattern.
Exactly.
Oh, it was tiger heads. Yeah. Yeah. Not a mural.
You don't need as many like full panels of a scene. Yeah. And there's like a lot less room for error.
Especially when the repeat is a lot. We have smaller repeat.
Yeah.
So then,
So let's define pattern a little bit. So we're a smaller repeat. I think within patterns, you can still have like florals. We've done a lot of like floral patterns where it just feels like, again, a secret garden. It's just a tighter, more compact, and you feel the repeat a lot more often. You see it like with stripes. is a pattern. Geometrics are a pattern.
Corey's favorite.
Your favorite.
Stripes.
Awesome.
I think stripes have had such a moment with this whole French girl movement and fashion.
Tinted rooms.
Everything. Yeah. Stripes are just always going to be a good
stripes
idea.
to me feel classic because I think the palette can change.
Yeah.
Grab
The
your
scale can change.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Grab your installer like a box of his favorite donuts because they're a hell of a thing to install. Like they do not like installing them because they're so hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, we love the stripe though, and we're still going to do it.
But this installer will get over it,
gorgeous.
and you will always love your stripes.
Oh, I can imagine
You
that would be
bought them
hard.
donuts.
If there's any like wave in the wall at all, you would totally see it in any
You'd be
stripe.
off.
Oh,
And
man.
like on your flow matching and everything.
Yeah.
But you can be like, there's small patterns, to medium to large patterns that still aren't considered a mural that are a pattern.
And we said florals, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like floral stripes, geometrics.
Just repeated motifs. Like we have one here that we're going to look at in a kid's playroom that was like bunnies repeated over and over again.
Stop it.
Just so cute. So you get the idea.
You called it like a ditzy print too.
Yeah, those little ditzy prints that are like almost English, because there's been this really big English cottage resurgence where you see those teeny tiny small scales that you feel like, ooh, I'd want to feel that in my pantry. Like a little pocket square moment, or ooh, the powder bath, or I just want to hit just this tiny little ceiling in this little tiny print just to have, again, the pocket square moment. So behind a bookshelf, there's really places for those tiny ditzy prints.
And those are fun. If you were like a pattern on pattern kind of girl, like the small ditzy prints with other types of patterns mix really, really well together.
Yes.
Kind of like the inside of the hat box, like you pull the lid off and it's lined with a smaller pattern. That's what the ditzy print is.
I also feel like an old decorator trick that we've done, we love the look of, I'll never get sick of it, I think. And that is when you have the wallpaper that is the same pattern as the drapery. So,
Guys, that's so good.
sometimes you're going to get your fabric backed as wallpaper and install it that way. And then you use the exact same fabric for the drapery. You'll see people do that with like a 4-poster bed with the draperies
canopies,
on that. And then the wall is the same thing. And it's just all in.
Which is
one
very,
pattern.
very common that if you're looking at a fabric, they have, like, it's a pattern fabric, they have a wallpaper in it as well for most vendors, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think with Kravit and some of those, which are the lines that have both.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then you can really play that game really well. Or you get the fabric backed into wallpaper and just spend the big bucks and go for it.
I work for Southern accents. So like it feels very English, but also very Southern.
Very
I don't think there was
Southern,
ever like an issue that didn't have that motif, and it was just timeless forever always.
It should be published. It's hard to do.
every.
It's expensive, and you are trying to flow match and pattern match where those things are syncing up, and
It
you
should be
need
celebrated.
it should be celebrated
every single
in
time.
print.
Yes. Glossy. Please, thank you.
In a book. Yes, you get so much credit for that.
Oh,
It's the thing of master suites, I feel like,
master
or
suites.
primary suites, I guess we say today.
Yes, I know we're really going to throw down. And I think it's, if you've dreamt of it, like you should do it someday if you haven't already in your house.
Yeah.
So it's just, what pattern will it be?
Definitely. Okay, should we jump into it?
Let's
We'll give
jump
some
into it.
examples. So speaking of really complicated installations
Man.
and stripes, this is one that has been loved in the portfolio, published by Arc Digest. This is a Cole & Sons wallpaper we did in Tan, France closet. Now this room was his attic. It was not being used as a closet. He said, can we turn this into a closet? And with the wall height, if you can see in this image, starting at about my hip, we were like, how on earth are we going to hang clothes that low? But we did it.
Maybe like 2.5 feet or 2 feet, like where the pitch started.
Yeah. But what we're celebrating here is it looks like a tented room.
Did
We
Matt do this one?
wallpapered.
Actually, someone else did it, but Tan loves Matt.
Okay. Did
So
they hate? Did they hate doing this? Because I mean, the pitched wall, and then there's like adjacent walls to it.
So
That'd be so hard.
This home is probably over 100 years old. This attic is all
It was
pitches.
published for-
And everything is stripes coming off of every angle. And I have to say, it turned out fantastic. This
looks
is
great.
green stripes from Cole & Son, varying sizes of stripes.
And
And
some
it's-
metallic. There were some in there that were
Yes.
metallic, which were really
Kinda
fun to hit
champagne-y
hit
golden.
the light with the mirror and everything.
Just so freaking pretty.
So if you can do have a good installer, don't do this at home, kids, like on your own. I would definitely have an installer on this one.
Did you go stripes because of who it was, or was like this? If we put a stripe on this bad boy, it's gonna elongate this
I think-
pitch and make it not seem as like cramped or
Yeah, and also
Both.
look tented. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Mhm.
I love those tented rooms and stripes. And I think green, because I believe it's Tan's favorite color. You see him do a lot with green. He wears green a lot. And it was just handsome.
I'm like, it's fashionable.
Yeah.
Stripes are so fashionable forever and always have been. So yeah, it was definitely the right move. And again, we know that like how to expand a room, like you put stuff on a diagonal to kind of stretch your eye. And so there's no better way to stretch your eye on small walls than to stripe it. Right. And so it's an optical illusion, but it like is so successful, especially when you do have these pitched areas.
Yeah. Two space expanding tricks here, diagonal lines and mirrors. Because if this wall were just feeling like a wall and not mirror, then the room would feel even smaller than it already was. But this makes it feel infinite and like there's another closet through that portal, right?
With more diagonal lines.
Yeah. Yeah.
You get twice as much for the same wallpaper.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Just put a mirror in there.
There you go.
So fun.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah.
Oh,
so that was Cole & Sons. This wallpaper company is called Thibaut, Thibaut, and this is one of your more affordable. This is one of the most affordable in our library. Yeah. And they have all sorts of stuff. Tell them what's happening in this room, Sue.
So this is a family here in Utah, and they have 3 boys, and they're all very like fun boys. And this one that he loved as far as African safari, and he loved bugs and just like all these things. So we found this again. We didn't want to like break the bank in this, again, a very pitched room, but we found this kind of just, I don't know, it's like kind of giraffe inspired, just kind of this animal print to kind of confuse the eye a little bit too. And just again, kind of wrap you in this kind of vaulted space. And so we did the whole, like this little bed is mirrored on the other side. And so you have a lot of pitches and just that little pattern, like it definitely says what the kid is all about and what they love, and just becomes this like really, even like when he's a teenager, I think he's going to dig it. You could put like, you know, concert posters on that and be like, oh, what a cool cat that guy is. But it's just, it's a small pattern that again, it confuses the eye, which I think is, it's kind of like the idea when we do a small tile in a small space, it makes it look bigger. Same thing with I think a vaulted space, like having a small pattern like that with an opinion, it confuses the eye and it just gives a really cool effect. So Thibaut's awesome because they have a huge broad range of like very small prints to medium prints to, they're doing a lot of murals now too. So they're really great, and they do texture. Anyway, we will go on for days, another episode. But Thibaut is a really great resource for y'all. So.
Yeah. A favorite of so many designers out there and a bunch of you listening, this is Groundworks by Kelly Wersler. This is Graffito. This has been something that's been really hot for probably the last 5, 6, 7 years.
For a long time in different colorways she introduced. And yeah, but this was, I think, a request from Rachel. She wanted to have it in her home somewhere. And so we hadn't seen it in this colorway very often. I think that's what was so interesting about that for us, is to try and find a pattern in a colorway that we're not used to seeing to make it feel more original. I think with the graphic, ness of the tile pattern, it was nice to have some of the soft lines, having with that pattern.
Feels hand drawn.
It does. It just feels sketched and just like with a scribe. It's really, really beautiful. And you kind of lose when you have a good installation. Because this one's not an easy one to install either. Because you can see how they flow match that line in the corner. Yeah. But again, it makes the lines disappear. And so that's the beautiful thing about like a good wallpaper, is that it kind of confuses the eye to a more magical space. Yeah.
Especially I feel like if you have a good installer, which is, I feel like is key.
It is. Yeah. Because with flow matching, that's what separates the boys from the men and whatever. Like when you see it on fabric and when there's a pattern and they match it on the cushion and on up. Same thing with wallpaper. If they can match it from one plane to the next without a hitch and, the tire, that's a good installer right there. So, yeah. Yeah.
That's Graffito. So beautiful. We designed this project probably 4 years ago. And then they didn't even get around to actually implementing it until this spring when we launched her basement. But it was still really beautiful. And that's something that you want, I feel like, in a pattern, is to think of something that you're excited about, but that you're not going to tire of, because it is expensive to install. And you're not going to get around to wallpapering super often, I don't think. No. So anyway.
It's still relevant.
Yeah.
And it's fun it was really fun to go back in our archives. This next one is one that we did, a good 5-7 years ago, at least. many years ago did we do this one?
This is Stonegate, wasn't it?
Yeah. So,
I'm going to say 10 at least.
Okay. Yeah. So this is one from Kate Spade. It's this like little, I think it's called Owlish. This print. We'll try and get this on.
This is by Kravit.
It's through Kravit, but Kate Spade was the designer on it. And she's just like, this client was just such a lovely, like little lady from the South. And so she really liked the trick of the fabric to the wallpaper all matching. So we were able to achieve that. But it's a little bit more modern interpretation, I think, and the colorway than something that felt old and stodgy. So I'm really happy with how this turned out.
Yeah, the palette's super fresh and happy.
Yeah. But you lose the corners, you guys. Like it really does, like these organic prints, like you take the square off the room, which I think is really comforting.
Yeah.
And so I just love this. It still stays light and bright, but it's interesting. The color, I think it could feel like an archived print that the one was reimagined with better colors.
Yeah.
Which I think is really cool. So,
totally.
Yeah, I love this trick.
So this is a woman's office. So I think as far as where to use patterns, I think offices are fun, bedrooms, bunk rooms, laundry rooms.
Any room where you have a task, especially if like you are the one driving the push for the wallpaper. What rooms do you occupy that you want to be happier in? Like whether it's a chore like laundry or, a pantry. I think pantries are really fun.
Yeah.
And honestly, closets. I think we did a project probably 9 years ago. It was when I was pregnant with Nolan. Anywhere where we found a really darling wallpaper for her girls, like walk-in closets. And they were so cute. Like one was like a Hunt Sloan one was like air balloons. And I still think about them. And I'm like, how fun for those girls to have that memory of their little closets being wallpapered.
Yeah.
So really like kind of wherever you imagine.
Closets are kind of little safe spaces when you're a kid, right? You can go cry in there or tell a secret, or I don't know, you just like you stack all your little things from your childhood that you don't quite want to give up on.
Mom doesn't want to display.
Those Build-A-Bears and that old jewelry and
American Girl dolls,
all the things. Yeah, closets are really sweet. Kids' rooms, obviously, this is a really fantastic. Ralph Lauren Constellation.
We've done this in a couple boys' rooms, and it's magical. I think the color helps them to calm down. For little boys, I think it's really, really smart to do it. Little boys' rooms.
It does
in a darker
feel like
color.
bedtime too.
It feels like nighttime, and so, which is so fun. Like even you guys, I'm gonna date this episode, but the supermoon just happened, and I took my son out, and I'm like, it was so magical, and I'm like, I can't imagine a better wallpaper to put in his room to like spark his imagination. In the other boys' room that we did this, it was a vaulted space, which was really fun to do constellations in because it just feels like the ceiling's closing in on you. And we actually did this planet mobile in there that was just kind of spinning around, and it's such a mood. You can really take your wallpaper and it can inspire so many decisions and so many like inspiring little, I think, notes in the space, and I don't know, really tell a story for your kids. I love that.
I love that too. This is a playroom,
guys,
we did in Holiday, Utah. This is a grandma that wanted a little playroom for her grandkids to come play in.
And you like walk up these stairs to like a space where like I even had a deck. I'm 5'4", and it was just like a little tuck away. I mean, you can see this little girl playing, with that chalkboard, and we did the whole thing, the ceiling and the walls that weren't chalk, in this like little repeated, almost like a hand blocked bunny. This one's from Jane Churchill. And I just think there's just like nothing sweeter. If you know the client, then you're like, yeah, absolutely, that fits Lori. But again, the small pattern makes it not feel so low, even though you're in a low space. Like she's like, I go up there, my daughter goes up there with the kids and we can hang out. They have like small furniture that they fit in, which is really, really fun. But just like, again, it's those pockets that like are so memorable when you do a trick like this.
Yeah.
I just love it. And
you
that
think about going to grandma's house, and this is what grandma's house looks like. And where you're playing with grandma.
It feels so Alice in Wonderland because you're going
really
up the stairs and through a secret little door, and then like it opens up like, the magic rabbit from Alice in Wonderland. It's magical.
So cool.
Speaking of prints that transport you, this Cole & Son palm for a pool bath.
You guys, I will say Cole & Son does a really good job with like their color saturations, and like I think there's some companies that like they get it wrong on the scale of their patterns. Like it's just a hair too small. But I think Cole & Son does a really good job at like blowing it up enough to make it feel, like almost like a mural. And
where
I
you're
think
not
the
seeing the repeat all the time.
It's a little bit more abstracted. I think they do such a good job. Martin Lawrence Bullard has a line through, and he's like one of the $1 Million decorators that's really wild, loves Moroccan design and like loud colors. This isn't his, but you can see what Cole and Son is like really great at. They're great at scenes. Mm-hmm. They're really, really good. And so
good
this was a pool bath in that same, like just in the little pool cabana area outside that little bunny print, same house. So good.
So good. It's such a scene. And I think trying to decide what you want your space to feel like, you can unlock your imagination as you flip through wallpaper books, and you can really start to get a feel for this room. I almost feel like instead of starting with the rug, you're going to start with the wallpaper, right? Yeah. If you're going to paper a room, and then you start to develop the paint palette, and then you start throwing the fabrics at it. This is the party starter, and the scene maker is wallpaper. Yeah. So
and now this is the biggest piece of art in the room.
Yep.
So whether it be the rug or the wallpaper, that's what you start with, which is so good.
Yeah. Speaking of Cole and Son.
Yeah.
This is a home that we did, over a decade ago now. This is our coastal contemporary house. This is their powder bath. And it's a black, kind of a
lily pad of a thing.
Yeah.
It's really, really beautiful.
And it's printed in like a bronze ink. Mm-hmm. And we did a really beautiful dark white oak in this space that's been stained. It's really handsome. And you can tell it smells good in there just by looking at it.
Still not sick of it.
Yeah.
Again, this is a Cole and Son, so you can see again that their scale on their patterns is really, really good, where it's almost, it bridges like the pattern to mural, line, which I think like if you want a less expensive one, there's such a good way to go.
It's also unexpected, which I think if you're going to do a wallpaper and you want credit for it, you don't want to do the same thing that you're seeing a lot of. And so you kind of want to look at resources that aren't overexposed in the retail market.
Yeah. And the unusual colorways or something that feels, unexpected, I think is a great way to say it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Powder baths, we've said it before, we'll say it again. It's a space where you're not going to tire of it because you're not going to spend a lot of time in there. You're just wanting to sort of set a mood. Your guests are going to use this bathroom. You're going to use it on the main floor. And it's kind of an escape for a minute just for yourself. And so I think kind of going bigger on the design in there feels really extraordinary. Yeah, you get so much credit.
It's not an expensive footprint to be able to line everything in.
You get more bang for your buck. Totally. It's smaller, yeah.
Definitely. Okay, speaking of powder baths, should we talk about this next one? Mm-hmm. This is a Toile, right, Sue?
Yeah. Let's talk about
Schumacher.
This one. Yeah, this is Schumacher one. I will say, I think when everybody hears the phrase Toile, you think of like a French scene, like she's sitting there with her big dress pillowed underneath a willow tree or something like that. This really lovely French scene. There's a lot of really cool, I think, modern toiles that are coming out. This is like a really it looks like I hand sketched it. Mm-hmm. Honestly, when I look at it, that's probably why I like it. But there's like a guy with a boombox and like a mohawk and like, so dope. Anyway, there's just like this unexpected thing that when you go into the space, you think you might know what it is until you like stop and stare a little closer and you're like, oh my gosh. Like you see like these
like irreverent.
It's super irreverent. And I think it's so much fun. I think there's another, there's a designer named Harlem Toile Girl. Yeah, anyway, she does some really cool stuff too, like on that same essence of just kind of like flipping it on its head and just making you see something, when you get up close, that's like not what you expected. And I think that's really, really fun way to do it. Just to damn the man. I don't know. Like I'm into it. I think it's super cool and it's unexpected, like you said. And again, this is great because it's a black and white, so we could go like bright on our tile and but it doesn't, I would never get tired of it. I think your kids would remember it. Mm-hmm. Why do I always say that? I'm like, it's probably because like I remember like the things that my grandma did and my mom did. And I'm like, you want your kids to like remember what was your stance.
I think they're memory points.
They are.
Yeah. Yeah. Wallpaper, I think, is a massive memory point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of Schumacher and bathrooms, let's talk about this space.
I love this. This is one that we did up in like San Francisco area. And this was the powder bath. It was kind of split between like a little, like the vanity space and then the potty closet was on the other side. But we showed her. I can't remember if like the client may have even brought like this pattern to us and just like, I love this one. And we just were like, yes, all day long, let's do this. And let's do it in both of the spaces. And I just think it's so, so happy. She has 3 young kids. And anyway, we did a lot of really cool wallpapers in this home. And this was probably my favorite. And it's fun too, because like we did the window trim and this kind of blue field color of the paper. And I just think it turned out really, really well. And again, I don't think it has to be expensive. We did a really interesting pattern here with like a Carrera. So if you even wanting to do it like on half of the wall, bring in an expensive tile up and then cover the walls and the lid in it.
The ceiling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's easier to do with a pattern, is to be able to wrap that up.
Yeah.
Murals, it's a lot trickier, but in these small areas, to just take that pattern up and over, like
do the hat box,
like in here, just like cover the whole thing.
Yeah.
Is really smart.
We talked about ceilings and pantries.
Oh, okay.
Let's end on this one. This
is
a project we are, I think we're waiting to get published on this project. Yeah. So this isn't on the portfolio yet, but speaking of color drenching and wallpaper, this is kind of taking advantage of both. Client is English. And so the paper on this one is
William Morris pattern, which is, he's a famous Scottish designer. And anyway, this is through House of Hackney, actually, this wallpaper. And she's just like, I love all the William Morris. We're like, yes, please. I remember seeing that when I did my internship in Scotland. Like, they had rooms like with original William Morris wallpaper.
Amazing.
And I was just so infatuated. So we took the wallpaper that was the springboard of the whole room. And again, it's a small pantry, but it's one you would lock yourself in, and just be like, I'll be there later, kids. I'm going to eat some cake. But the ceiling, we just hit with the William Morris wallpaper because we were millwork on everything else. But it's so fun to look up and see that. So again, don't forget the fifth wall. If that's like, we don't do an accent wall like vertically, but we will do just the ceiling. But just, I think the key to that is make sure that the walls speak to the wallpaper.
Yeah. And small spaces where you could hit the ceiling with just wallpaper would be a pantry, a powder, a closet, right? Just those like little moments where you want to do a little print like this or a little historic print. His closet would be really handsome, men's suiting, a stripe, something like that. A potty closet.
Potty closet.
Off of a primary suite. So those all have their places. Anyway.
It'd be so sad if those, like, that millwork was all white.
Yeah.
With that wallpaper, like, nothing would really, like, it makes the wallpaper grow when you drop it onto the other walls.
Yeah. Another place for a cute little print would be, I think, inside of cabinetry that has glass storefront that maybe you're going to use like your China hutch. We've done a floral on the back of that. Built-ins, you could hit the back of it in an office and make that feel really handsome. Yeah.
So
any other uses?
Fun. I think you hit all. And honestly, like, anywhere you can imagine, there's a wallpaper for it. I think so. I just think that they're darling. And honestly, you kind of figure out what's the pattern, what's the intensity of color you want to have, and what's the scale.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And you start to narrow those things down to figure out what is your dream wallpaper space and where would you do it in your house. Walk around and see like what feels good and what needs more attention. And wallpaper, I guarantee, will make you so happy.
Yeah.
If you do it in your spaces.
It's more of like, it's not like, this is my personal opinion. It's not like there's wallpaper people and people who are not wallpaper. I feel like it's finding the right one. There's something out there for everyone, in my opinion.
I think we should also talk about from room to room, just kind of treating your hallways like it's like a palette cleanser, right? Just so that not everything should be wallpapered in the house. I think this is probably a question people are having for us.
Where I said anywhere can be wallpapered. If you're a maximalist, sure. But I think for the majority of our clients, we keep the main public spaces a little bit. I like that. Just take a breath. And it's a little bit more neutral. Maybe your art is more loud out there. And then you tuck away into these spaces that can like really show off a scene.
Yeah.
Which is really smart.
Even on small patterns, I think we're always still going to call our paper hanger, our installer, to come and measure and make sure we get the measurements right. We can certainly throw those things in CAD, especially if it's a China, cabinet or whatnot, but we still want to talk to the installer because they're going to have best practices on the right amounts to get.
And they're going to know how they're going to do it. I think everyone has a little bit different of a way to, to kind of maximize their yield.
Yes.
And so each hanger is going to have their own like process to that. And so they're going to know how much they're going to need for it. So I would leave that up to them. Then you don't have to have a bunch left over, not have enough, have to stop in the middle of the project to get more, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So
that happened just yesterday. I got a text from my brother and he said, hey, so we're a roll short on this bathroom downstairs. Can you sell me one more roll of wallpaper? And I wanted to be like, I wonder what happened with the paper hanger. How come he didn't know? Because if anything, they're always going to over yield, because if you can imagine how frustrating you have to go back out again, and your paper hanger has to come twice to finish the one job. So you're always going to want more than less.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. No, when I was talking to our wallpaper installer, he's just like, just know that you're going to have a lot. And especially when you're dealing with pattern, any type of pattern or matching thing, like it's not a square footage thing. You can't just measure the square foot and think like, okay, that equals the amount of square footage that's in this roll, especially with the pattern. Cause like there's a calculation of how much waste you need dependent on the pattern. He can even give me a hard, fast number because it depends on the pattern. It depends on the space, and each time it's different. And so just know that you're going to have a lot of waste, but if you want it installed correctly, that's just part of the game to make sure that it matches correctly.
Yeah.
So
that's great.
Yeah.
Any other notes from Matthew that you want to make sure and tell them when it comes to paper installation?
Paper installation. I asked him, I mentioned this in the mural one as well. I asked him, like, what is the hardest type of paper to install?
Yeah.
He says on a lot of the inexpensive papers that are digitally printed, they have this like white strip, this overlap. And he's just like, that's really hard because when you do cut that, like you have to be careful how you cut it and how it matches. But then like, we've said it before, like the field color of that pattern, you're going to paint, especially if it's dark, you're going to paint the room in that color so that when those seams match up, especially if it's inexpensive, at least do this.
Yes.
Paint the room that way so that when they match up, like it has a dark color behind it. And he's like, I even keep like a paintbrush to like take that field color and paint that lining core if the paper's not a good one, because it'll make it look a lot more expensive. For sure, you won't have like these weird white lines. Again, stripes are just difficult. Be nice to your installer. Yeah, I think that was like really all level 5 when you're doing wallpaper insulation. That's the texture of the wall. If you are remodeling, just make sure you're like skimming that and making it really, really smooth so that the install goes well. Or if you're building new, just make sure you like identify that level 5 texture with the builder when he's building it up. And just know the space. Like make sure you have like all the paper info with the repeats in the space, and like you walk it with your installer before you order anything. I think this is his biggest thing because every space is different. Even like where like your sink sits and your mirrors hit, that could like be a real game changer, whether you're a mural or a pattern, depending on how big the space is.
That's probably going to dictate where they start.
Yeah,
so where
like
they'll
the focal
end
point.
Exactly. And they measure that like per, panel, and just depending on like how high your ceilings are versus how long the roll is and how big the repeat is, depends on how much you're just going to have a lot of waste if you're trying to match it up horizontally.
Yeah.
Based on the height of this room.
How tall your baseboard is too is going to make a difference. So yeah.
Anyway, so all those things are just like, you realize how complex it should be, you should be crossing your T's and dotting your I's when you're about to wallpaper, because you're going to spend the money. So
Yep.
You're going to spend the money either up front or trying to fix it. So, yeah.
That's great.
Measure twice, cut once.
Measure twice, cut
does
once.
it come from I think that comes from a wallpaper hanger.
Probably.
Did.
Or a cabinetry maker.
That's where I've heard it, but that's just because that's my world.
Too.
Oh yeah, good point.
Dressmakers, 100%.
Oh, well, you guys, this has been a great conversation. I hope this has helped you guys envision where and how to use patterned wallpaper in your home. And now is a great time to mention that if you are interested in wallpapering your home, you can work with our complimentary designers to get the perfect style for your space and home. Completely free to work with them, and they use all of the Alice Lane resources, and they are on standby to help. You can just reach out to them by visiting alicelanehome.com and clicking on the Design Services tab. Also available to help with your vision would be Alice Lane Interior Design if you're doing a full remodel or a new build. We would love to hold your hand through the process and help you envision your dream. Thanks so much for listening, you guys, and we will catch you next time. Hey, thanks for listening. If you like our show, please leave a 5-star rating.